forward about needing receivers? Obviously, you got 3 of them. How do you feel about your room now with these guys coming in?
Well, you always feel good right now, but bottom line is you got to get these guys in here and see what they can do, and a lot of it's going to be how fast can these guys pick up the offense.
What do you like about Christian?
Well, he's big, he's fast, he's physical. One thing I really liked was when you watched him block. I think that says a lot about a player, his willingness, especially at that position, because we all know those guys, they want to go out there, they want to get the big plays, but what are they willing to do for their teammates? And I watched one of the run blocking reel, which isn't the most exciting reel when you're talking about wide receivers, but just to see the effort that he gave down in and down out in that aspect of the game. I mean, we can always use somebody like that, especially when you're talking about a 6'4" guy. He's over 200 pounds, runs a sub 4.4, so there's a lot to be excited there.
So it's a fitting thing that Aaron Jones got to announce in that time.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So, and then we got a good chance to sit down with him here. He came up for one of our 30 visits, and you can tell he's a smart guy. So I think he'll pick it up pretty quickly. But you always want to temper the expectations of rookies because you really don't know until you get them in here. He did have one thing when he was here on the visit, because he was in the Senior Bowl, and my brother was coaching him. So I kind of conned him into, I said, hey, what'd you think of that dude that walked around he had his hat on backwards, was carrying a coffee cup? It's like, he's kind of a jerk, isn't he? And he's like, yeah, he was kind of a jerk. But no, anyway, but no, he's a good kid.
You talked specifically about wanting to improve the speed of the receiving core. How do you think y'all address that with those 3 guys that you had in terms of their vertical threats?
Yeah, I think all those guys can run. I think sometimes the 40 can be kind of overvalued. I think you look at the play speed on tape. Obviously, Christian put a sub 4.3 40. I mean, he's flying. So, but I think the play speed of all those guys is pretty good.
Did you have to caution yourself at all thinking, okay, find a Devontae or MVS replacement, and just look at the guys separate from that?
Yeah, I think you always it's always about how that group complements one another. I think I've talked about that quite a few times, just how you use them. I mean, certainly you're not going to find Devontae Adams, at least not initially. Certainly, I don't want to limit any of these guys and say they can't become that, but I mean, you're talking about one of the elite receivers in the game, and I think even if you look at Devontae's first couple of years, matter of fact, throughout this process, I went back and watched some of Devontae's highlights from college and just how he moved. I went back and watched his combine, and I would say that he looks a little bit different than he did then. So there is definitely it's a process, and it takes some time, and hopefully we can get these guys up to speed pretty quickly, and it's going to start with just how they attack it and how fast they pick this up, and certainly we're going to push them to be their best right away because that's what we need from them.
You said we got better. You've invested on defense early in the draft. Every year but one here now. Since Scooty's been picking, how much better do you think you are?
Well, I think they're very talented players with Quay and Devontae, and but again, it's about what they do when they get here. So until they come in and learn our system and kind of get thrown into the fire, so to speak, you don't really know. But we are excited about the talent that they possess and the potential for those guys. So we're going to push them hard, and hopefully they can pick it up quickly and implement them into our scheme.
Matt, with the guys you got a chance to meet, I know you maybe necessarily haven't met all of them yet, but the guys you got a chance to meet in advance, was there any personality trait of somebody that just really jumped out to you or stuck in your head heading into this weekend?
Well, I think first and foremost, you're always trying to find guys that love ball, that are smart, that are competitive, because I think if you find those traits in a guy, and it's tough to do in such a short span. Typically, that takes some time of being around somebody, but if you get a good feel for the person, I think that helps, you know, most of the guys I've been around, at least, the guys that are all about those things and have those traits, those characteristics, I think they realize their potential much better. So that's something that we're always looking for, is just, you know, that football character, if you will.
Hey, Matt, do you see the offense getting even back more to the roots that you had with the strength of personnel that you have in the backfield? Do you see it going even more that way going forward?
Well, I think it's just a matter of, we got to get everybody in here, see what these guys can do, try to, you know, put those guys in situations to really accentuate their strengths. And, you know, every year is a different year, and we're going to have a lot of new faces. I mean, it was interesting having our first team meeting when you look in the crowd, and you see, there's a lot of new guys, a lot of new coaches. So you got to bring it all together, and that is a process. It takes time. And we'll find out a lot over the next couple months and into training camp, and we'll adjust accordingly.
Are you going to start repping Sean and Zach at tackle, or do you see them kicking inside?
I think, yeah. What I love about those guys is they're versatile players. Obviously, Zach's a guy that's really played everything. Sean is a guy that, you know, we feel like he can start out at tackle and go inside. So I think it's just, again, it's a process. We'll probably play around with that when we get them here and kind of see them up close and personal and get our hands on them.
So did Aaron actually have you fooled that he wasn't showing up last week when he was in town? He said he surprised you.
He did. He did. I saw him on TV. I was watching the Bucs game, and I saw him and Cobb courtside, and I texted him. I said, "Man, you guys look cute together down there on the court." But I said, "I can't wait to see you tomorrow." He goes, "I'm on the first thing smoking out of here." And it was great to see him in the building. Anytime he comes in, I think it just kind of, it brings a natural energy with that. It's very organic, and I think the guys get excited to see him. And he went out there, and I can tell he's in great shape. He went out there and worked out with our guys. And, you know, he looked like he always does. He's a pro. He's been doing this for a long time, and he always stays in shape.
On that note, he said on McAfee, he said he'll be here for a couple days in May. He'll come to minicamp. How helpful can that be, given, you know, Sammy Watkins and the three guys you just drafted kind of helped him get in concert with him?
Yeah, totally. Just like I mentioned, there's a lot of new faces. So, you know, the more that these guys can get around one another, that's one of the challenges, I think, each and every year is how do you recreate that team chemistry, that camaraderie. And the only way you can do that is if you're around one another. And certainly, not only the chemistry on the field, but off the field as well is so important.
How much do you think you might have helped your special teams these last 3 days with the guys you selected between the latter rounds?
Yeah, I think, you know, time will tell. You know, we have hopes for these guys, but again, they're going to have to get here and prove it.
With that in mind, Brian admitted that y'all might have pampered yourselves in years past, going after offensive guys that couldn't really contribute on special teams. Did having Rich in the building just kind of change how you're evaluating these guys, especially someone like Watson or Dobbs?
Well, I think Rich has a clear-cut philosophy in how he wants to use guys, and certainly he's the best in the business in my eyes. He's had a lot of successful teams that he's been a part of, and just really happy to have him here. He definitely brings a passion and intensity and a clear vision of what he wants and what he expects out of each guy. And, you know, I know he's going to love them tough and demand a lot. And I think these guys are going to learn a lot about him, just how much he cares, not only about what we put out there, but how much he cares about them as people as well.
Matt, what's his impression been of the personnel you have? I mean, you didn't really spend all 4 seventh rounders on big safeties who can run. You know, there must be some guys in the building that he likes. Do you feel like you could improve your special teams with the guys you have?
Oh, absolutely. I think, again, I think it comes down to his vision for these guys and, you know, putting them through consistent drill work. And it's going to be kind of a work in progress. I think we'll have a lot better feel once we get out on the field. We get to start going out with these guys, early next week. And so that'll be a great opportunity for him to get, his hands on these guys and again, get a good feel for what they can do.
You guys ended the season pretty good on defense, and obviously you used your first 2 picks there. What kind of potential do you think that group as a unit might have this fall?
Yeah, I think we're excited about it, but again, until you get everybody back here and you got to recreate that magic that we finished with, any year is never the same. So certainly we lost some guys that we're going to need other guys to step into those roles, and certainly implementing a few of these draft picks into those roles as well. And but no, we're excited about it. But again, there's nothing's guaranteed. You can't take anything for granted. You got to work for it, and it's going to be how our guys come together, how they come back, how they come to work, and we've still got a lot of room for improvement, really in all 3 phases.
Matt, you were one of the best offenses the last couple of years. Can you stay up there after losing an elite player like Adams?
Well, that's the mindset. That's the hope. But you got to work for it. And I know nothing comes easy in this league. And if you rest on your successes from yesterday, you're probably going to get worse. So we're always of that mindset of you're either getting better or you're getting worse, and you're never staying the same. And the only way we can get better is to get back out on that field and put in the work and try to find guys to pick up a lot of slack that we lost, especially when you look at the perimeter. I mean, so many guys, whether it was obviously Devontae, MVS, EQ played a ton of snaps. We've got to implement these guys that maybe haven't had much experience at all and see how they come around.
Do you, I know you're not going to rest on your accomplishments, but you're pretty confident in what you and your staff can do in terms of scheme and offense. So while you'd rather have Devontae here, are you guys kind of excited about the idea of the challenge of, I don't want to say reinventing the offense, but certainly you're going to have to do some things differently than you have the past couple of years. How's that for you and Steno and the rest of the group?
Yeah, I mean, it's every year is exciting to kind of the challenge that comes along with it. And certainly when you lose like a couple guys that contributed quite a bit to our offense, that brings some other challenges. So it's been interesting going back, studying, looking at, other teams around the league and seeing how maybe we can implement some new things. But ultimately, we got to get all our guys back in the building, get them on the field. We haven't even been with these guys on the field. We've kind of just, the last 2 weeks they've been training with our strength staff, but for the most part, we've just been going through old cut-ups and just kind of getting guys refreshed with what we're doing schematically in all 3 phases. But it's going to be exciting to get out there on Monday and get these guys on the grass.
Good time for 2 more. I understand it's only year 4 for you. It's not like you've been here forever yet. But with the previous regime, it was interesting to hear Tom Clemens come back and talk about things they did early and then the way the offense looked toward the end of his time here in the first run. Have you seen some probably good evolutions toward things you really like, and maybe some things where you're saying, I kind of want to get back to that. We've gotten away from that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that we did this offseason is we took our 3 years worth of film and started making new cut-ups. And it's interesting when you go back and you're like, oh man, maybe it was our first year in 2019 of like just things that you've kind of gotten away from that, to your point, that we'll get back to. But ultimately, it's just, again, it's trying to find the best way to put the guys that we have in the best position to have success. And certainly, once we get, especially when we get Aaron back in the building, I'm talking from an offensive standpoint, that's when a lot of these discussions take place in terms of what do we want it to look like moving forward. But because he's got a big part in this thing, obviously.
When we talked to Wyatt, he said he'd just gotten off the phone with Kenny Clark, afternoon in Green Bay. And we talked to Christian Watson, he said he got a text from Aaron. Is that something that you emphasize, get things off on the right foot with those relations?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is just, you love it when your leaders take these guys under their wing, because, I mean, these guys that have been around know that we've got to count on everybody, and the sooner that we can get these young guys up to speed and they feel comfortable with what we're doing and they feel accepted, a part of the group, I think the better our chances are. So that's always encouraging when you hear stories like that, for our guys reaching out to those younger guys and kind of accepting them. I think that makes you feel good as a coach.
Now, what if your defense and special teams have the strength of your team this year, and you're an offensive coach? Do you play to that strength, or do you continue to be what you are as offensive, kind of quarterback?
It's all about winning games, Tom. I don't care if we score 10 points or 40 points. It's about getting that W, bottom line. And we're going to play to whatever strength we have. And I think every year it's just, you go back to kind of, I know I've only been calling plays now. This is going into year 5. But I think you go back to Tennessee, and if you have to run the ball 40 times in a game, then you do what you got to do. And certainly I don't think we necessarily have to do that here. I think, especially when you have a quarterback of the caliber that we have, and I've got a lot of faith in just the people around him, not only up front, but our tight ends and our receivers. Our backs in the passing game. We'll do whatever it takes to win, though, bottom line. So if it calls for 40 runs in a game, or if it calls for 40 passes, it doesn't matter. It's all about winning.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Hey, Matt, what's your plan for the rookies this week, real quick?
I guess Jason wants to extend this press conference, so we'll do that for him.
Formality. I know what your plan is.
No, yeah, so we're going to go out there. We'll get them in the building on Friday evening. Is it Friday evening? Thursday evening. And then we're going to go out there, and we're basically going to have 2 days, kind of your mini camp days. So Friday and Saturday, we'll get a walkthrough in the mornings, and then afternoon we'll get some good practice in.